All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sizes and sorts and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I am Juan Carlos Bagnell, the SomeGadgetGuy, the SGG of the SGGQA, and the QA stands for question and answer, as I like to make these streams interactive. If you're catching the live stream every Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific time, you get to interact in a really great live chat with some really fun tech fans. Or if you just want to have the comforting sound of my voice, sort of harass you through a long commute, you can always download the audio-only version on your favorite podcasting services. Just search SGGQA on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm there. And I'm already seeing a ton of really awesome people in the live chat. Of course, I have to start this off immediately with a huge thumbs up of glory. A thank you shout out to Steve DeRoche in the live chat. If you're watching the live stream and you like this new intro that we're working with, well, that's Steve's work. Steve kicked that my way, and I'm super appreciative because it makes me look way more professional than I really deserve. Now, I'm going to apologize for this once right at the top of the show. Since CES, my entire family has just been trading illness between my wife, my daughter, and I. We keep sort of just passing back and forth this a different variant on head colds and coughs, and I'm trying to expel something from my lungs here. So I'm going to try and minimize the damage on the actual podcast. I'm going to try and kick that back. So apologies for those of you who hate the sounds of biology in your podcast feeds. This one's probably going to be a little crunchy, but you'll be also hearing me sip a lot of water on this show from the most delicious coffee mug that you can have if you would like some mega pickles on your coffee mug. So let me just take a sip right now and jump right into some housekeeping. From Sherelle Abdul Rahman. The family cold musical chair. Man, we've gone through flu, we've gone through head colds, we've gone through weird coughs, and it sucks because my daughter's 3, so trying to keep her from like reinfecting other children. There have been some more stay home days. She hates that. She loves going to her preschool. It's just family life, man. Doing the family thing. Okay. I want to jump right into some housekeeping. We've got a lot to talk about, not a ton of news stories. The SGGQA podcast show, why I like to do a Monday morning show, is we can look back at some of the headlines that maybe needed a little bit more attention. I think the news cycles in tech have been dominated by MWC coverage and discussion. That was last week's podcast. I did another podcast that'll hopefully be coming out soon with Shaman Das. I just had a wonderful conversation where we kind of rambled through some of our thoughts on folding phones, and I hope that'll be out soon too. And when it is, I'll try and link that out so you'll catch that on my Twitter. There are a few other little just sort of political stories that I want to cover, and then we're finally getting hands-on with some of these new devices coming out. I kind of flipped myself out yesterday, getting a Nokia 9 and setting it up and doing a live stream, and that's all on this channel too. And it was just super raw and like kind of took me back to my old school days of tech reviewing where I had like a folding tray table and a terrible 720p camera, and all of my videos were just hands molesting gadgets on camera for people. Like that was a lot of fun. I mean, when it's fun, I want to kind of get back to some of that stuff. But over the weekend, I had another tweet kind of not go viral, but sort of hit harder for me than what kind of traffic I usually get on Twitter. And something I wanted to bring up immediately, because as soon as something like this with an opinion comes out, the Twitter commentary gets silly. The Twitter commentary gets aggressive, and you get contrarians that have to tell you you're wrong when you're obviously not. And this is a quick shout out to Russell Hawley. Russell Hawley is an amazing tech commentator, where if you're not following him, and especially his cycling exploits, because dude lost a lot of weight. He's looking real good, getting real healthy too. Let me go back into my window capture. So Russell posted this. which he found at a Hot Topic, but it's being sold all over the place. You can find these things at Bed Bath & Beyond's, and it makes me almost vilely ill. So this is from Russell Hawley's Twitter feed. $5 at Hot Topic gets you a 1,000 milliamp hour battery you can apparently only use once, but it includes multiple cable types in the packaging, and the packaging is a really heavy-duty plasticky packaging, and on the case, it says disposable phone charger. So there's no getting around the idea that this is a ton of plastic with a lithium-ion cell that cannot be reused, and the whole purpose of it is to use it once and then discard it. I find this is completely undefendable. And so I tweeted out, this makes me absurdly angry. The idea that we need more e-waste for a dubious level of convenience. Please do not let friends or family buy crap like this. So tens of thousands of impressions, almost 500 retweets later. The number of people who want to come out of the woodwork to complain about liberal snowflakes whinging on about the environment is horrific on Twitter. This is a terrible product. It's a lithium-ion cell. I would be very surprised if the emergency use for a product like this could really live up to any consumer expectations. Like, there's an idea. Some people brought up, and I think that this is fine, but some people brought up like, oh, well, you know, what if I bought something like this for an emergency kit, like an earthquake kit or like a, you know, like some kind of, you know, emergency prep kit? And you're like, okay, I can kind of see something like that. It's sealed. So hopefully if your e-kit gets soaked, you know, your battery would still work. And in an emergency where you needed half the capacity of an iPhone charge, something like that could maybe come in handy. But that's obviously not the purpose when it's at a Hot Topic in funky, fresh, power up, disposable, whoa, rad kids packaging right next to a cash register, right? And it comes in 4 funky flavors: chocolate, strawberry, mint. I mean, I don't think they actually call them that, but those are the colors they come in, is pink, black, white, and green. So, of course, you're like, oh, I think this is great. So, oh, well, I mean, there are other countries that are doing way worse to the environment. So I could use 1,000 of these and never make a dent into the actual environment. And you're like, that's completely missing the point. And it's wrong. It's factually wrong. First of all, if you threw away 1,000 of these and you had lithium-ion cells in landfills, well, that just increases the risk of garbage fires. So that's bad. But also it doesn't take much to make this a significantly better product. And I mean, like, searching on Amazon, you can find a rechargeable battery, one of those little like lipstick tube batteries. I started using those. Like, Nokia used to give those out at influencer events. A 3,000, 3 times the capacity, a 3,000 milliamp hour rechargeable battery that is going to be way more useful. A companion product, always have it with you for your phone, is going to cost $12 with shipping. So, you know, this is infuriating for its intended design. And so I tweeted out, you know, my reply to Russell, and I almost want to write Russell an apology, like, hey man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to spotlight your tweet like that, because the people coming out to it wasn't people coming out to defend it. It wasn't like anyone really thought that this was a good product. It was people coming out just to spit bile, like, well, this is a crap product, but you're wrong. Like, what are we doing here? And again, you know, just so many battery conversations. Should phones have removable batteries? Right to repair? Energizers, humongous brick of a phone. We've talked about all of these different things. I think we can have a reasonable grown-up, big boy, big girl, big person conversation about this not being great. And if we're going to have those conversations about things like disaster prep, which I actually still want to do a disaster tech prep series. It's actually taken me a lot longer to find good information and educate myself on what these things would be. But, you know, I'm right over here. I've got batteries, water resistant and shock resistant, really ruggedized batteries. Outdoor Tech makes a great, sort of sealed up if you want to go hiking and camping and you need something to charge. Solar cells so that you can charge via sunlight. And those 4-panel, like fold out, those used to be hundreds of dollars. Now you can pick up like a really decent 4-panel charger for around $100. Stuff like that could really move the needle on educating your family and friends and minimizing the impact on e-waste. Because this is not the way to do it. And I think this is a terrible solution when you could just sell a rechargeable battery for twice the price, $10, and have that be the solution. Like at that register at the kiosk, go to Hot Topic, it's got a partial charge on it, you can recharge your phone, and then you can reuse it. You can use it again. So, want to get on to some happier things from Magus Ziad. Sorry, on Periscope. 1,000 milliamps won't even be able to charge some smartwatches. Well, 1,000 milliamps should be able to charge most smartwatches, right? Because like the conversion isn't quite 2 to 1. I mean, not the conversion, the loss. Because when you plug in a battery, it's not perfect. So if you have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery in your phone and you have a 3,000 milliamp hour battery, portable battery, it's not 1 to 1. It's not like you can put all of the energy in the portable battery into your phone battery. But I think with 1,000 milliamps, you could probably top off most 300 to 400 milliamp hour smartwatches. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong. But we've got a bunch of really cool people in the chat already dropping some fire comments. I'm seeing some new faces here too. Some people wondering if we're all bots, which I'm pretty sure we are, right? We're all synthetic, artificially intelligent life forms. I don't actually exist in any sort of corporeal form. But I'm seeing Cheryl, I'm seeing Song Singer. LFA is in the chat. What's up, LFA? LFA just put out a phenomenal video. Samsung fans, check out LFA's channel where he just did a comparison between the Gear Icon X true wireless earbuds and the new Samsung buds, the new Samsung wireless buds, and just talking about the pros and cons, the comparisons. There are some subtle differences in fit and finish, and whether or not that could be seen as some kind of upgrade path. I keep wanting to say Pixel Buds, and that's not the right product. I forget. Galaxy Buds? Is it Galaxy Buds? I don't know. Someone correct me. Someone in the live chat, tell me what the name of that product is. I have too much going on to interrupt my live feed to go Google something. But check out that video because his headphone commentary is great. I love watching his headphone commentary, and I am definitely an audio snob, a headphone snob. So I'm going to reach out to him after this podcast. I want to do a collab with him because he puts out some great videos. All right, let's get into some news. I'm going to try and keep news minimal, and I say this every week, and I fail every week. So apologies if this week this feels like I'm a little more rushed and I'm not doing commentary on your comments quite as much. I need to Renata Laporte. For the rest of the world, they're Samsung's AirPods. I really hope that truly wireless headphones are not generically referred to as AirPods, like Kleenex or Xeroxing. Sorry. See, I'm already getting distracted. News. I'm going to pull up the first story. We've got to talk a little tech and politics. I know you guys get twitchy when I do this, but it has to happen. Window share. This is coming by way of Engadget.com, written up by Steve Dent. Headline, Huawei will reportedly sue the U.S. government this week. And from the article, the beginning of the article, Huawei will reportedly sue the U.S. government this week, that's the title, for banning its telecom products from federal agencies, according to the New York Times. The company is trying to defend itself from U.S. charges that it's a security threat, and the lawsuit could be a move to force the U.S. government to reveal more about what it knows. Recently, Huawei and its CEO, Ren Zhengfei, oh man, I am so sorry for that, have gone on the offensive, citing Edward Snowden and saying, there's no way the U.S. can crush us. Okay. The U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, has charged Huawei for allegedly stealing trade secrets from T-Mobile and violating U.S. sanctions by carrying out business with Iran. Huawei has pleaded not guilty. So this is I'm not wanting to dedicate a lot of commentary per podcast about this, but this is an unraveling story that's definitely, we just need to check in as time goes on. We get those early advisories, law enforcement advisories against companies like ZTE and Huawei. There's sort of a correlation between Chinese manufacturers that also have an infrastructure investment, companies that make telecommunications equipment and consumer electronics, being on watch lists and being on these law enforcement advisories, while other manufacturers, Oppo, Xiaomi, haven't really broken through. And so I feel like there's a lot of conflating the security threats of network and infrastructure with, oh no, if you have a Huawei phone, then China is spying on you. And we still haven't found any good evidence to suggest that these products are any less secure than competitors, from Samsung or Moto, LG, etc. So I feel it's critical that we kind of keep that a part of the conversation, that we are looking at international trade, intellectual property. If Huawei needs to be taken to task for that kind of infrastructure, those kinds of shenanigans, then that's the law enforcement side of this. While we also wait to see, will they be tagged like ZTE? I seriously doubt that. Every single time I say seriously, my iPhone perks up. Or apparently is something about the way that I say seriously that confuses iPhones. But I digress. So, what are your guys' thoughts? It seems like this is going to be a tit for tat coming back and forth between our current administration, which is oddly inconsistent with other countries in how they do business and what the perceived threat of some regimes are versus others. Then also combining that with the second largest consumer electronics manufacturer, or second largest smartphone manufacturer, one of the largest infrastructure companies, and a major economic force in China going head to head. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a very long fought battle, and I think it's going to be a much harder story to untangle than what we saw with ZTE. I see from Sharil Abdul Rahman, Zhang Fei. The I is a Y sound. Okay, I'll go with that. Zhang Fei sounds like it could be correct to me. Huawei is banned on U.S. university grounds because of sensitive research projects. It's a big problem for IP and next-gen development. And that's definitely an interesting consideration. We saw that story break, and I talked about it on the podcast a couple weeks ago, with a company that was trying to work on diamond screens, diamond glass, diamond-infused glass. And apparently there was a sting where the FBI got involved in some of those conversations to see what Huawei executives would do with testing this material and then taking it out of the country when they shouldn't have to test this material. From LeBaron Burton, some of it doesn't make sense. Why scare people? The average consumer and telecom infrastructure are two different things. And rationally, that's why I keep phrasing these conversations in that way. I feel like that is an important clarification. I don't like this knee-jerk, fear, reactionary media clickbait style of reporting. Or we're going to put Huawei and security threat and Huawei and risk in these big headlines without properly explaining the sort of division of these various entities. Like Huawei is a giant umbrella label with a ton of organization under that name. But that doesn't get you clicks, and that doesn't prove salacious, and that doesn't scare people. And that's, I think, one of the biggest barriers for a lot of our conversations right now is we're only going to write up a news piece or a blog or an article on this topic or quote the New York Times if we can somehow scare someone into clicking on this story, or just reading the headline and then sharing it. See, I told you Huawei was bad. And then we're not really contributing to a conversation like grown-ups. From Steve DeRoche, I can't wait for Alex Jones' take on it. And again, we'll get all of that hot Alex Jones news as soon as he's on the Joe Rogan podcast again. Okay. I might have unsubscribed from the Joe Rogan podcast. So, From Steve again. The Huawei antennas are turning frogs gay. Oh no, it's even funnier the way you wrote it. The Huawei antennas are turning frog gays. Next news story. Let's move on. I feel like we're rocking and rolling here, and I feel good, even though my throat is trying to expel gunk. I'm gonna keep bringing it up because I think it's super gross, and that's hilarious. All right, let's go back into get this back here. Window capture. We got to talk about this. This is a pair of stories. I'm going to hit these two articles back to back, and then we'll chat about this a little bit. But your thoughts on kids using social media. This is from Mashable. TikTok gets fined $5.7 million for collecting children's data, and they announce a new kid-friendly version. Written up by Jack Morse. I'm going to skip through some of this article. The operators of musical.ly, now known as TikTok, Musical.ly, knew children were using the app, but they still failed to seek parental consent before collecting names, email addresses, and other personal information from users under the age of 13, FTC Chairman Joe Simon said in a statement. Excuse me. The app, which had been downloaded 1 billion times, is owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, and is responsible for the proliferation of bizarre lip-syncing and finger-eating videos in your Twitter feed. TikTok is not exactly a Vine replacement, but rather represents an evolution in the looping video genre. As a testament to its success, Facebook tried to rip off TikTok with a viral clip app of its own. I want to scroll down here. And the company also announced a separate app experience that comes with extra privacy protection for young users. Beginning today, this additional app experience now allows us to split users into age-appropriate TikTok environments, in line with FTC guidance for mixed audience apps. This is from TikTok's press release. The new environment for younger users does not permit the sharing of personal information, and it puts extensive limitations on content and user interaction. I think this is very important to keep in mind as we go to the next story before I go back into my rambling commentary. We've got a very big problem in how we manage and regulate platform services. So Google as YouTube, they are a distribution platform, but they also have editorial control over the content on their platform. So how should we be regulating a ginormous entity like a YouTube? TikTok doesn't have the same kind of proliferation user base. I think it's going to be like Vine, popular for a couple years. The people who joined that platform will grow up, and then they'll leave the platform, and you're not really going to keep finding successive generations of new users. But are they a publishing entity? They have editorial and content control. Should they be responsible for what's on their platform outside of just, well, this is against our community guidelines? Every single major internet service is running into this, and every single major service has completely different protocol, has completely different reactions to how they police content on their platform, stay advertiser friendly or at least community friendly, avoid additional FCC and FTC regulations. This is a huge mess, and I don't know that there is a good answer right now between the proliferation of speech, ideas that are absolutely terrible and reprehensible and do a marked harm to the world at large when those ideas are propagated, versus a company being responsible for the content on their platform and then also having to face their own regulatory actions because they're really a publisher and not a distributor. Next story. Let me click back into screen share here. And this is coming by way of Digital Trends, written up by Georgina Torbay. I really hope that's how she pronounces her name. YouTube struggles with inappropriate content, demonetizes videos of minors. And this is from the article. YouTube has been struggling recently to balance the needs of content creators, viewers, and advertisers. This week, it rolled out changes to its strike system for content creators who upload content that violate the site's guidelines, trying to clarify the consequences for uploading inappropriate material. And the week before, there were problems in the PC hardware community with copyright strikes being used inappropriately to shut down media criticisms on the platform. Verge. There have also been problems with rampant conspiracy theories spreading on the site, even leading to advertisements for health companies running before anti-vaccine content, which has angered advertisers who did not know their companies were being promoted alongside dangerous and false health information. Down to the actually, I don't even need to keep quoting this article. We talked about this a little bit before too, and I'm still in the analysis phase of seriously considering deactivating comments on my YouTube channel. One of the outcomes for what YouTube is trying to do to police their channel is to, well, first of all, they are demonetizing a whole grip of conspiracy theorists, anti-vaxxers, and also channels with kids. So if you had like a family vlogging channel, that is being demonetized. A lot of those videos are getting demonetized. YouTube is trying to respond by policing comments so that maybe they'll deactivate comments, but the initial reaction, the initial response of still demonetizing videos seems to be a part of that strategy too. So it wasn't like they walked back demonetization and then disabled comments. It was, well, we can also disable your comments so you don't get any weird demonetization or strikes that way, but we're still demonetizing your video, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. Essentially, because of bad actors on the YouTube site, because of pedophile rings leaving comments on videos, you can now get your videos demonetized and shadow demonetized and delisted from SEO based on the comments that are left on your video. So you put out a totally innocuous family vlog. Hey, family and I, we're going to the water park. It's going to be super fun. And then a pedophile starts leaving like coded comments on your channel. YouTube's algorithm picks up on that and you get your video demonetized. They're not really giving us better tools to manage or police this. They're just encouraging you to turn on some type of filtering. So, oh yeah, you can hold comments for review. But all of that's manual, and all of that takes time out of your day to really sit there and try and manage all this stuff. And already, I mean, if you do any work on YouTube and you still engage in the comments, that's a full-time job. A lot of people walk away from it and just let the comments do whatever and fester and stuff. But now, if you just let the comments go on autopilot, you can have your monetization pulled. And when I had my monetization pulled talking about net neutrality, it comes with a pretty severe impact on your listing in the YouTube algorithm. My channel never really recovered for that kind of search. And increasingly, I'm seeing more traffic coming from sources that I'm sharing on. So it's my social media sweat equity that's bringing people to watch videos, not YouTube engaging with a community or sharing or listing you become sort of more invisible to the YouTube SEO algorithm. Oh, I see VIPRE and Forbes tech reviews. VIPRE dropping some fire in the chat. Tech Leathercraft. To clarify, it is videos that feature minors. Perhaps important distinction, maybe not. I don't think it's an important distinction. I think YouTube's clarification of these issues have been purposely vague so that they can operate in sort of a officer discretion kind of way. Because what does it mean to feature a minor in your video? That's going to be we don't know it, but we know it when we can't define it, but we know it when we see it kind of situation. And so those types of situations are going to be further weaponized. We haven't seen YouTube really properly address copyright issues, copyright strikes, bad actors trying to extort channels. That's not really been fixed for those of us who make content for the YouTube platform. But this is why I wanted these two stories to go back to back. TikTok's strategy and TikTok's solution was to try and create some sort of kids feed, which I'll be curious to see how do they vet content or how do they appropriately funnel content, which is supposed to be more appropriate for kids. Because what did we see when YouTube did that? YouTube Kids was a raging dumpster fire of terrible, terrible algorithm-driven, sick and twisted videos being sent over to the kids' channels with all kinds of near fetish style content being produced and then fed into the same types of video streams, like your kid presses play on a Peppa Pig video, and then YouTube takes over and just starts populating what the next videos will be in that playlist. And 4 videos later, she's watching stuff that's very distasteful for a young person to engage with. So excuse me. So this is why I keep talking about YouTube or Facebook. I think faces a similar problem when you have so much content being dumped on your platform. You're trying to hide behind the safety banner of only being a distribution service, but you are also responsible for publishing style editorial decision making. I think this is a huge losing battle. I don't think any company can really win in this space right now, given that proliferation of content and given how easy it is to game the system, how easy it is to circumvent basic protections. Then you come up with harder protections, and it's an arms race to get around that. But so far, I also haven't seen any creativity from YouTube. Time and time again, when something bad happens on YouTube, YouTube's big solution is to put the hammer down on smaller content creators. Let's make it harder to monetize. Let's make it harder to get additional features like copyright protection. You need to have a ton of subscribers to get basic content ID matching. So let's say you only have like 1,000 subscribers and you come out with a video that blows up and goes viral, and a ton of other people do reactions on it or just copy the video entirely and put it up on dumb clickbaity, they serve their own ads types of videos. Well, because you only have 1,000 subscribers, it is so much more difficult for you to find who's ripped off your video because they don't give you access to those tools. That's the kind of thing where that's already an automated system. Why don't you give that to everybody? Why aren't you concerned about the proliferation of copyright theft on the platform, but you're giving up weaponized tools to major studios, and then the people that actually make up the sort of bread and butter daily click interaction SEO long tail of YouTube have to do all of this on their own? I think I looked it up. I mean, there was something like 4,000? No, not that many. I have to look it up later. I have to go into the other interface, but there are hundreds and hundreds. I know it's probably closer to something silly like 400 or 500. Oh man, I'm gonna have to look that up. That's gonna make me sad. Anyway, of people that have ripped off my videos. So I can go to any number of YouTube channels and see like some of my old reviews, especially like my old Lumia reviews, have been continued to be pulled off of my channel, copied to another. And, it took me till I think something like 50,000 subscribers before YouTube gave me any type of content ID. So anyway, this is all terrible and I hate it. And I wish people could be cool. And I wish we had better tools to work with this stuff. And I think that's all I really need to say about that. From Abdullah Chaudhry, you can systematically destroy YouTube channel by leaving specific comments. Yeah, this is going to be the new trolling. We saw on Reddit comments snipped from 4chan about people saying like, oh yeah, we can make bots that are going to totally play into this YouTube algorithm if we want to shut a channel down. Steve DeRoche, the funny thing is when they closed down Pokemon Go and Club Penguin channels because they both use C and P as an acronym. Again, I don't want to make, we need safe spaces on the internet. No, I mean, like, I'd like to expose my daughter to specific user-generated channels that aren't total garbage, but nah, I mean, Netflix Kids is doing way better for cultivating content. From Trine Trox, yes, TikTok for kids, that's going to be a pedophile haven. Just delete TikTok altogether. From FE1538C, Google is one of the main AI makers. Why they not watch comments? And this is what's frustrating is if they're going to demonetize channels, we know that it's not a person complained about a comment on your channel and that went to a decision maker at YouTube and a human pushed the button on demonetizing. We know that's algorithmic. When they clarified their strike system, they made a point of expressing you can get a strike or you can get demonetized for any behavior on the YouTube platform. It's not the content of a video. You can get a strike for a thumbnail. You can get a strike for content in your video description. You can get a strike for music. I mean, everything. And then demonetization takes that one step further, where you can get demonetized for the content of your video, the thumbnail if it's inappropriate, the description, your video description, your comments, the comments you leave, and the comments other people leave on your videos. So it was a very nice clarification. We're explaining how the copyright, the strike system and the demonetization systems work. And basically, we're making it way easier for you to get demonetized, get a strike, have your channel defunded, and affect what it is that you do on our platform. But we're not giving you any better tools to manage any of that. All right, let's move on to some other fun news. Oh, actually, this is a good comment. Tech Leathercraft, YouTube should just put all comments into the moderation held for review, then creators can approve or block. Anymore, increasingly, like, I don't think people realize moderating comments is, like, I'm constantly plugged into the YouTube creator app. I feel a video is like a forum post. I put out a video and it's about a specific topic. If the only purpose of your comment is to insult another person in the comment feed or to make fun of my teeth, my earned coffee, tea, and red wine stains on my teeth, anything that's off topic, I'm just going to mute you because we're dealing with a specific topic in that video. Let's say, I think the iPhone video, my iPhone review was a perfect example. I had to put it in a pinned comment. I am making specific points and arguments about my experience using an iPhone. If you're only coming here to say I'm a shill or a hater or I'm a fanboy or something like that, and you do not address anything in the video, I am considering that off topic. And I'm still weeding that video today. So that happens across I'm almost at 1,100 videos now, public. I'm over 1,000. I'll still find videos from like my early days when I was reviewing gadgets on a coffee table in my living room after my wife had gone to bed. You know, like even those still pull the, oh my God, you're so totally wrong about the LG G Optimus. Cool. I think we can get on with our lives. From Harshit. Bargava. What do you think about TikTok? I think TikTok is cancer, but I'm not going to get in the way of what kids do to have fun. Because when I was a kid, I was probably into some really dopey stuff too. From Ibrahim Mohsin, Netflix Teen, way better than YouTube Kids. No, I'm serious. We set up a kids account on Netflix for my daughter. It is so good. And the content that they've been acquiring for kids shows, I mean, they started with just some silly animation, the Beat Bugs. You know, we're going to make a show about cartoon bugs that sing Beatles songs. I mean, for a 2-year-old, that's awesome. And like my daughter's walking around like singing. I started singing. That would have gotten me a content strike. No, I'm kidding. But she's walking around singing like classic Beatles songs. That's great. I love this. Okay. From Aditya Anil, if comments are disabled, how will YouTube then gauge the audience reaction? Solely on like-dislike ratios and views? Oh, that will be sad. It might. I don't know. I mean, passive views do very little for a content creator these days. The entire platform is, again, going through another adpocalypse. So January is already a dry month, right? When you have a service where you work for ads, November and December are gravy train. You've got to put out videos. They've got to be sort of relevant to different communities, and the ad rates just skyrocket. But January is always a fall off. People aren't buying stuff in January, and advertisers aren't spending new money for their fiscal year there. They're waiting for big holidays to kind of push advertising. So January, I saw a very steep drop off just because that's what you always see. From January to now, I've seen probably another 20%, maybe almost 25% drop in ad revenue for an increase in video views. So again, this isn't as brutal an advertiser pullout as when Logan Paul screwed up and made fun of a suicide victim on his channel and put that in a thumbnail, where they didn't go after Logan Paul with any severity. They went after smaller content creators again. It's getting less and less economically feasible to put more and more time to make more and more videos when your ad rates keep dropping and dropping and dropping. Like, I'm looking at MWC, like the phones that were announced during MWC, getting those phones, having to buy some of those phones, making videos on those phones, increasingly is a challenge. Looking at my finances to say, well, what's going to make sense? What's going to make an impact? Or just what do I like? And what can I afford to really produce content for? Sorry, that's a lot of airing my dirty laundry. Let's move on. Oh, from LGH Dotma. Sorry. Then we'll move on. So does your daughter now think the Beatles are a cover band? Yes, she does. I showed her, what was it? I've Just Seen a Face. I absolutely adore that song. And the Beat Bugs covered it. And she can sing the first verse, which is pretty. I mean, it's like almost rap for the Beatles. It's a pretty quick song. And so she was singing the Beat Bugs version, which is incomplete. It's only the first verse and the chorus. So I was like, do you want to hear I've Just Seen a Face? And so I play the actual Beatles version. I find an old busted film rip of them singing that song on some like nighttime variety show. She's like, no, I want to hear the Beatles. No. And she's watching these old guys in black and white. And you're like, oh my gosh. It's almost insidious that her notion of the Beatles are actual cartoon Beatles that sing Beatles songs. That's kind of a head trip for a little kid. All right, moving right along. This one's real fast. We don't have to spend a lot of time on this. I got a request, and I'm sorry, I don't have my Twitter feed up. Someone asked me to talk about USB. USB is going through something of a name change. It's super confusing, but I'm hoping what I was originally going to talk about might be fixed in the next year or so with new tech and something better. So we have USB. We have USB 3. That's just like a faster. We have USB 3.0 and USB 3.1 specifications. There was an article last week talking about how combining the 3.0 and 3.1 specifications is going to create a USB 3.2. I don't fully understand what the combination of those two things means for a new spec, which doesn't really seem to be a new spec, but can possibly utilize some kind of faster throughput. So like, what is it? I actually have, let me go into the article here. This is from Tom's Hardware. USB 4 debuts with twice the throughput of and Thunderbolt 3 support. And this is why I think this is kind of important. Oh, Sharil, thank you. Sharil Abdul Rahman in our live chat. He tweeted me out. He was saying it's stupid the way that we're naming USB 3.2. But according to Tom's Hardware, USB 3.1, 10 gigabit. And the previous term for this was USB 3.1 Gen 2. Now we're going to USB 3.2, which is a 20 gigabit throughput. And the technical term is USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. So again, it looks like they're using some sort of parallel routing for, a faster throughput. The reason why I'm happy about where we will be going, is we're going to USB 4. And instead of dealing with these various permutations of USB 3, 3.0, 3.1, 3.2, hopefully manufacturers will skip all of that, go to USB 4 as the spec, and that this will also enable better compatibility with Thunderbolt 3. This has been one of the most obnoxious things to deal with in consumer electronics, where everything is using the same connector. You can have USB 3, 3.1, 3.2, It's using the USB-C port, the same port we find on the bottoms of most phones now and the iPad. But only a handful of laptops and desktops have started supporting Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt has more throughput. It's a better serial connector for, hooking up monitors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now USB4 is going to bring a lot of those benefits to the USB spec and then hopefully also be a bit more seamless. If you have Thunderbolt 3, you can use USB devices on Thunderbolt. If you only have USB-C on your laptop, you can't use Thunderbolt, but they use the same connector, and that's dumb. So this to me is a much better solution than further confusing what the USB 3 specs will be. It's going to be faster, 40 gigabit throughput, better support for DisplayPort, Thunderbolt 3. You can hook up 2 4K displays at 60 hertz. I mean, all of these things that we like for Thunderbolt now is going to be incorporated in the USB spec. And if that's seamless, this will be a lot easier for us to handle accessories and expansion. LS2, USB will now be called USB-C. Only USB-C doesn't mean anything. It's literally just the connector, which is hilarious. From James W., I highly doubt manufacturers will skip straight to USB 4. That would make too much sense. No, they're not. There is definitely over the next year, because, I mean, whenever we hear about these types of products, they've been in the pipeline for a while, right? Now, USB 4 has probably been worked on since Thunderbolt came out. We planned these things out years in advance, not like, oh, well, we've made this new spec and we're announcing it today because today's the day we made it. So I fully believe that because we went last week through those obnoxious stories about 3.2, we will see products that are just 3.2. What I'm hoping is by, I don't know, second half 2020, we have motherboard manufacturers, laptop manufacturers that are now promoting USB 4. Next year's Intel and AMD chipsets will support this new transfer protocol, and then we can hopefully from there move on where the differences between Thunderbolt and USB are basically gone, and it doesn't matter what you plug into your system, it should work. That's what I'm hoping that we'll eventually be working towards. But it's probably gonna be, from the announcement today, it's probably gonna be a year or two before we actually see it implemented in a consumer-facing fashion. I'd love for it to be faster, though. I'd love for them to say, yeah, USB 4 is ready, and Dell, right there, ready to go. Go buy one. Boom. Because that would be awesome for competition. It also makes me cranky because, like I was really seriously shopping a Surface, but I want Thunderbolt. I want Thunderbolt on a Surface. That makes way more sense to be able to hook up like an external GPU and then pop it off and then have an awesome little tablet when I just want to do, something more basic. I need that. All right. Want to take a quick break? I didn't do this last week. So I've already broken my chain, my streak of one podcast talking about user-generated content. And we need to check in on that real quick. I'm going to take another drink of water here. From Everything Wiring, how's Nokia 9 as per your opinion? We're going to be talking about that at the end of the show, which will probably be, I don't know, in about a half hour. If you want to check out and come back, I don't know. We'll see. So years ago, I put together a little subreddit where I tried to encourage people to share stuff called Glowing Rectangles. You go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. What I wanted to do was create something of a link farm to help smaller content creators out. This was before YouTube went crazy moving the goalposts on smaller channels and demonetizing channels. And so I feel like this has become even more important based on some of the stories we already talked about at the beginning of the podcast. And what didn't work was trying to encourage people to sort of take time out of their day to try and build up the popularity of a small subreddit, especially one that I never had any designs on it being a front page kind of subreddit. But we've been seeing growth. In fact, 9 new subscribers over the last week. I want to continue putting putting this together because we're seeing more clicks, we're seeing more interactions, we're seeing more upvotes. And that's, I think, one of the best ways that we can encourage positive organic growth for smaller channels, especially channels that haven't made their criteria yet for being monetized on YouTube. That's all a benefit for YouTube. It keeps people on YouTube longer, and they don't get to benefit from their own work in building up their reputation. I didn't have to go through that when I was a content creator. There was just this sort of weird arbitrary metric that they would then enable monetization on your channel. It wasn't like, oh, well, you've got to work for 1,000 subscribers. You're at 900 subscribers. Well, now you've got to work for 5,000 subscribers. And it kind of feels like YouTube keeps moving things around like that on new players. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Over the last week, we've had some really cool stories. And I just want to briefly run them down here real quick. These are the top stories from Glowing Rectangles last week. First up, stop buying crappy, truly wireless earbuds, part 6, the Samsung Galaxy Buds review from LFA. One of the top upvoted and viewed videos on Glowing Rectangles. And this is his review of the Galaxy Buds. And like I said, also, after you watch this review, you can also check out his comparison with the Icon X, the older version of Samsung's truly wireless earbuds. And there's definitely something in the air because the next most popular story on Glowing Rectangles is Demir Frank, the nitpicker, reviewing the Lenovo Air TWS. Great sound for the price. Another variation on truly wireless earbuds. I feel like the continued death of the headphone jack is encouraging a lot of people to check out headphones with no cable. And then rounding out the top 3, someone who dropped by to drop some fire in our review, in our podcast, in the live chat, Mr. VIPRE, one of the most high energy YouTube content creators I've ever seen. You should definitely be subscribed to. Apple doing battery right, the XS Max smart battery case review. So the XS Max already has a pretty decently sized battery for an iPhone. Definitely better than my XS, where I'm rocking a Zero Lemon, and I do need to tap into the Zero Lemon as I use my iPhone throughout the day. But if you want to pack on a little extra junk in the trunk, a little extra girth there, the XS Max has its own battery case solution. It's a little bit of a bump, and it's a little bumper case, and you can go to town, use your XS Max, probably more. And that was sort of tied for third. Also on the channel, Enabong Eda with his Galaxy S10 Plus versus Mate 20 Pro versus OnePlus 6T under display fingerprint test. If you want to see some gorgeous hand modeling of pushing into screens to try and unlock phones, you can check that out on our Glowing Rectangles. Hey, folks, I hope you'll check out the subreddit because this is one of those things where we're starting to see that little positive bump. We're starting to see some growth. And these are all people that I feel deserve more attention. And if you know of some YouTube or content creators that you think deserve more attention, you hopefully kind of expose their videos or their articles. It doesn't have to be videos. If someone's writing up great content, you can submit blog posts too. But if you want to try and help them get a little bit more of a bump, get a little bit more audience, please consider dropping by and submitting a link, sharing a link, getting them some karma, getting yourself some karma, all sort of encouraging that Reddit growth where if something blows up on Reddit, that can be a huge positive impact for someone's career. And this is maybe hopefully going to be a resource where people can farm content for appropriate subreddits. If it's an Android phone, maybe it gets a little traction here and then someone goes and reposts that over to our Android or headphones. A headphone review from LFA definitely deserves to be over on our headphones, so hopefully we can kind of keep spreading the love through a community action like this. Okay. How about we jump from Sharil Abdul Rahman? VIPRE likes thick phones. Okay. Oh, man. Guys, don't pick on VIPRE. Oh, VIPRE loving him some girthy phones. No, come on, man. iPhone XS Max, big is beautiful. All right, so moving right along. Why don't we jump into some leaks? We're coming to the sort of conclusion of newsy stuff. I am not the biggest fan of digging into leaks. I get tired of phones being nitpicked and talked to death before we actually get the opportunity to use them. I mentioned this. I'm going to be maybe wrapping up sort of a Razer Phone 2 camera review / eulogy for the Razer phone department at Razer. And one of the things that I talk about is like the commentary for the Razer Phone 2 was done. YouTube had sort of already written it off. Reviewers had moved on a week before consumers could actually buy one. And you can almost track it on YouTube. There were a whole bunch of those early release, hands-on, what's a gaming phone? How do you game on a phone? I'm going to review a gaming phone for non-gamers. Like all of these sort of like short-term 48-hour reviews. And then there's like a steep drop-off. There's like a huge plummet of any kind of conversation on that device after the phone was commercially available. So anyone who was looking to buy one, if you went and watched one of those early videos, you saw pre-release software, you saw early builds on the camera app, bug fixes and patches have happened. It just got the Android Pie update and a new camera update. I'm having to reshoot some stuff with the phone just because there have been some camera improvements. But that's the toxicity of I always have to be first, and I always have to talk about these things, and we always have to talk about leaks and rumors, and it sucks a lot of the fun out of using the gadget because you're in that kind of a rat race. I digress. I'm gonna drink some more water. How about some OnePlus 7 action? From Alan. Alan, you're reading my mind, man. Okay, so this is from Steve H. McFly. McFly! And I love that he's still working a ton of Back to the Future jokes. You probably know Steve better as @OnLeaks. And he's one of these breed of I get leaks of cool techie things. And he claims to have the 360 video gorgeous 5K renders dimensions on behalf of my friends over at Price Baba. So let's go and check out Price Baba. I actually should have loaded this website before starting this live stream. Exclusive OnePlus 7 renders and 360-degree video. PriceBaba.com. So yeah, this is legitimately what I think a OnePlus 7 could look like. Assuming an underscreen fingerprint reader, just like we have on the OnePlus 6T, the general OnePlus 6T visual aesthetic, a tiny, tiny little strip of forehead for a speaker, a teeny little chin just to kind of, help fit all the components together and give yourself room for a USB port on the bottom, and going to a telescoping selfie camera. So there is no teardrop notch, there is no unibrow, there's no bathtub. You have all screen with a teeny strip of forehead and a slightly larger teeny strip of chin. And then a pop-out camera, just like some of the other... what's the umbrella company? Because I always say I always say Oppo. But Oppo isn't the big umbrella. There's like a Chinese consortium that own all of these other Chinese consortium that own all of these other brands like OnePlus, Oppo, Vivo. I don't think they own Blue. Do they own Blue? Someone in the BBK. Thank you, James W. and LGH and Cheryl and James W. BBK. So BBK is the big Chinese organization that owns all of these other brands, and that's also why we've seen so much back and forth, like especially in the past between Oppo and OnePlus. It's almost like a Volkswagen Porsche collaboration. Like, we're gonna make the same frame, and you're gonna put in like a Snapdragon 660, and we're going to put in a Snapdragon 835, but like the cases almost fit the same phones between these two different devices. Back to the leak here. Now it looks like we're going to be borrowing more of the components off of the Vivo, which had a pop-up camera. I'm cool with this. I think selfie cameras are terrible, so anything that sort of removes the selfie camera from the screen equation is a huge positive for me. I mean, I just the action of popping out this selfie camera, I'd much rather just use the good cameras on the back of the phone anyway, even if I have to shoot blind. Maybe if you get the mirror finish OnePlus, you just use the back of the phone as a mirror to take your selfie cameras from good cameras as opposed to terrible selfie cameras. But it does also look like we're going to be going to some kind of triple camera array. So my hypothesis would be that we're going with matched sensors and then some kind of depth tracking. I'll be really curious to see if we go with different focal lengths, because this is actually something that I've become a big fan of. I would much rather use software cropping for the zoom and then have a separate wide angle sensor for a wide shot. So you can go wide from a dedicated camera. You have the main normal field of view, usually between like 25 and 28 millimeter focal length equivalency. But then don't include a zoom sensor. The zoom sensor has to be smaller and with a smaller aperture. And so a lot, like for example, the Razr phone is a perfect example. A lot of people complained that the zoom photos looked significantly worse on the Razr. Well, on an iPhone or on numerous other phones, like even on the V40, if you are not in optimal lighting conditions, the phone isn't really using the zoom sensor. At night, indoors, it's taking the image from the main sensor and then punching in and cropping it, and then just sort of, bumping the resolution back up after the fact. It's not really taking the photo from the zoom sensor. That's how much better these main sensors are than these terrible, compromised, tiny, poor light acquisition zoom sensors. You can even find it, I think, in my Twitter feed. I have a photo where I've got like both of these. There we go. So I've got two of these light trees and an LED panel, and then like a little spotlight that I keep on like a LumaCube style spot, all on a baseball. This baseball is being lit by a tremendous amount of light. And then I put my iPhone up to take the photo close up using the zoom, and it's still taking the photo from the main camera sensor. The iPhone, it's indoors, so whatever light metering it's detecting isn't even based on the subject. It just still uses the main camera sensor. So why do we even bother putting these zoom sensors on phones, especially if you want to take a photo at night? It's just immediately going to dump you to the main sensor. Like, I actually think Razr should have gotten a little credit, like, oh, you're actually using the hardware that you charged me for. It's just not as good. And you can also test that yourself. If you put the Google Camera APK on a Razr and you use the zoom, I think those photos look better than the actual Razr camera zoom, and the Google APK isn't using the zoom sensor. But I digress. What I would like to see is, I'm sorry. Let me get back to the OnePlus 7. I'm kind of torn. The OnePlus 6T did not use these matched sensors very well. Like, there's very little impact on photos with the matched focal length sensors. Supposedly, it's to improve light and clarity and contrast, but if you block one of the sensors, photos are nearly indistinguishable from photos where both cameras are being used. Now, I really do hope, though, that one of these sensors is a depth sensor, because we're going to be talking about Nokia 9. Depth sensing is legit. And this is something I think could go a long ways towards helping to spruce up OnePlus's camera capabilities. But then we'll just have to see what sensors do they go with. Will they maybe go with one of the larger megapixel sensors, like what we got, the half-inch sensor on the View 20? That would be an awesome fight. Having a View 20 with that 48 megapixel sensor and a OnePlus with that 48 megapixel sensor and the Nokia 9 with 5 cameras on the back, that could be an awesome fight all around that $600 price point. Would make me very happy. From @FatProduce, I just want OnePlus to include external SD card support. Nah, probably not going to happen. In fact, I think we're going to start seeing that increasingly not happen on mid-ranger devices. right? You know, the Nokia 9, no SD card slot. The OnePlus 6, the OnePlus has never had SD card expansion. You know, Google can set sort of a tier at the high end saying, well, you don't need it, and we've got faster storage. And Pixels, you just buy more storage when you buy the phone. You don't need to add storage later. From Abraham Artemis, I wish more manufacturers could go with Huawei's strategy with them using bigger sensors for their camera. That's what I'm definitely hoping is to see if another manufacturer under the premium tier starts using these half-inch camera sensors. So the image sensor size on most premium phones is between 1/2.3. I think Sony almost exclusively uses the 1/2.3 inch sensor to 1/2.8. So not quite half inch. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're talking about surface area, the ability to soak up light, how your lens interacts with that, how the aperture changes, the bigger the surface area of your sensor, the bigger the impact on every other aspect of your photography. And this is increasingly like an important concern with smartphones. Like, they are most people's primary camera. I feel like that's still an area where we can talk about the practical differences of hardware improvements like that. So moving up that chain, I would love to see half inch run, not 1/2.3, not 1/2.5, but 1/2. And that alone would be a huge positive improvement for a lot of smartphone cameras out there. There are so many situations where the Honor View 20 at 600-ish euro can substantially outperform, when we're talking about photo IQ, can substantially outperform traditional premium phones. The look of stills from the View 20 easily bests my iPhone, easily bests my previous experiences with Samsungs. It easily beats LG, especially when we're talking about auto mode where LG isn't super strong. It is an impressive accomplishment to put that even without image stabilization too. And we're talking like off-the-cuff candid night street shots, easily outperforming. And again, it's because of that sensor size advantage. And then Huawei has a ton of really crazy software algorithms to manage that. It's like the first generation Pixel. Actually a great low light performer without image stabilization because of these software algorithms that can kind of work with the gyro to rein in stuff. I'm a big fan of that trend. Now, some people have been concerned, well, it's a half-inch sensor, but you've got 4 times the resolution, so your pixels are smaller. But not really, because when you have something like a View 20, that 48 megapixels is squished down into 12. It's a perfect 4:1. Every 4 pixels on the View 20 are squished down into 1 pixel for your output. So you don't end up, it's not about resolution. It's not that I need a 48 megapixel image. You can capture the 48 megapixel image, but you don't need it. What you're doing is using that to also create a texture map of the noise that sensor generates. So by squishing that down, that has a signal to noise benefit. That pixel, it's not pixel binning, it's pixel combining. And it's pixel combining at a proper 4:1 ratio. It's kind of like when you watch 1080p content on a UHD display. It's a perfect 4:1 downshrink. And when you watch 4K content on a 1080p display, that looks better than 1080p content on a 1080p display because of how you do color processing, color rendering, and compression. Because every pixel gets proper color information because you've squished it 4:1. It's a much longer conversation. So that half inch would be the next perfect stepping stone, because I seriously doubt more manufacturers are going to be going to the 2/3 inch size, the Lumia 1020 size, the Mate 20 Pro camera size, or the Mate 20X camera size. I would much rather prefer going to substantially larger. I would love to see a phone with a 1-inch sensor. I think that's going to take some time, and instead what we'll probably do is go through half inch, maybe 2/3 inch on some niche devices or premium devices, and then a lot of companions like what we have with the Nokia. Multiple camera sensors, monochrome sensors, depth sensors for mapping and tracking, and I think that is going to be over the next year is going to be that huge step towards closing the gap between physics and optics and software processing, really improving our photography. From Este Bandido, can't they just put all their money on camera software this time? I'm actually okay. I mean, like, I'm okay with OnePlus's software. Everything kind of feels like it's a step behind what like a Pixel or a Galaxy can do. But I mean, like the OnePlus night sight is pretty good. It's not bad. And then if you really want to get fancy, the Google camera APK works a trick on phones like the OnePlus and the Razer Phone 2. In fact, I kind of like the processing speed on the Razer Phone 2 a little bit better than I like on my experiences with the Pixel 3. A lot of people talking about my comparison with VW and Audi. Okay. I mean, like, people are like, oh, you should have compared VW and Skoda. I've never seen a Skoda in person, so I can't comment on that. From Shivam Tawari, do you like the normal notch versus the water drop versus slide versus pop-up? So I've talked about this on numerous podcasts. I'm just going to repeat this here. If you care about your selfies and you want the best possible photo IQ and you want the least disruption to your screen, then the only acceptable solution is dual display. Having a touchscreen on the front and a smaller touchscreen on the back of your phone, and you only use the main cameras from the back of your phone. But you can still use them with a display on the back of your phone for video calling and for photo composition. It's also one of the reasons why I like the Mate X over the Galaxy Fold, is it's by design. We only put one set of really good cameras on your phone. Those are the cameras you will use for everything. That to me is the only correct solution. God, and so many people talking about Skoda, and I'm going to just skip over all of you. Sherrill talking about the 48 megapixel Sony sensor as a half inch, but with 0.8 micron pixels. But again, 0.8 microns times 4, because you combine 4 of those pixels and then use that for noise reduction. Sherrill, also, quick poll for the chat. Which camera software is your choice from which manufacturer? Drop some comments. I want to see. What do you guys think about camera software? Do you like Samsung's sort of auto approach with a ton of extra fun features and stickers with a pro mode in the background but not on Pi? Or do you like LG with their granular control over video? What about Huawei and Honor with their more photography-based solutions, but like tons of other modes and settings? Drop some comments. I want to see, what do you guys think about camera software? Oh, and apparently TK Bay's kicking around. The Nubia X. So yes, TK, the Nubia X is the first example of that dual screen. But isn't there a Vivo that just came out that does dual screen too? The Nubia team like completely wrote me off. Like, they've not replied to any of my messages. They're like, oh, well, we're not going to sell the phone in the United States, so we can't send you one. Like, I'm not even trying to review it. What I want to talk about is the philosophy of this design and why this is a much better idea. And their PR team was like, nope. So I anyone who's going to give it to me, I want to make a bunch of videos talking about how this is the correct, true, best solution for what everyone's trying to accomplish. Fat Produce, he enjoys the Mate 9 camera app. Let's see. From Doomer231, why can't notches be used as secondary displays like on early LG V series phones and some HTC devices? For example, I don't have a notch, and more than half of my status bar is taken by useful info and stats. And then from Ricardo Morales Bonilla, remember that we already had a better selfie camera on the Oppo N1, which rotated, so you always took a selfie with the main camera. See, actually, that might not be a bad solution too, but the moving parts of a tiny little rotating camera, I wonder if they didn't keep doing that because it was too expensive to manufacture, more expensive to repair and support. I really wish I need to see if I can dig up a contact, someone who like worked at Oppo. Maybe I'll reach out to TechAlter, just say like, hey, why did that go away? Because that that was a good idea. Steve DeRoche, LG camera software, but if auto had the same Google processing, it would be cool. That's always the big fight is the cameras that do auto mode the best are usually garbage for any type of control. Like if you want to control some of those settings, you're sort of SOL. But the phones that have amazing manual controls tend to have somewhat mediocre auto processing. And I just wish, like, man, it would be peanut butter jelly time if we could get one just combining all of those things. That would be pretty sweet. Speaking of cameras, real quick, this is just like the tease and the plug. It's taken me a long time to finish this, but the Honor View 20 camera review is live. So I have it's about a 16-minute video going through tons of sample images under a variety of real-world shooting conditions, in-depth analysis, talking about the hardware. And this is also one of the things that was kind of tricky or sticky to deal with last week was what I want to do on YouTube. My camera reviews and my audio deep dive reviews, those are Patreon exclusive videos. So the only reason these videos exist is because there's a small community of people that are contributing directly to helping fund these videos. I don't want to leave the public discussion out in the cold. And there are a whole bunch of, who is it? It wasn't Android. Was it Android Authority or Android Police? Just started a new series talking about smartphone cameras where it's like, we're going to tell you everything you need to know in 2 minutes. And so here are all the specs and here's our pros and cons and here's what we think. So I've started cutting out like the camera conclusion. You know, it's usually a 4 to 5 minute video all on its own talking about my experiences and wrapping up my thoughts. And then the rest of the video is where I show my work, you know, so you see those individual examples of photos and videos and some of how I got through some of my analysis. But the conclusion is there. The conclusion is what I'm posting. It's not like I'm like, oh, so did I like this camera? Better click on the Patreon link. I'm telling you up front what I liked about the camera and what I didn't. I get such negative responses to that. I'm seriously considering just not posting those anymore. So if the general backlash is going to be, oh, you know, it's the same kind of camera conversation as you would see in any other full phone review or any standalone camera review, but we know that you've got more samples that you could show us, but you're only going to put those on Patreon, then I'm going to spam you with negative comments and thumbs down votes. And again, in this current climate of already having to spend too much time policing YouTube, I'm seriously considering just walking away from it all and only posting camera and audio commentary to Patreon and not sharing any of it with anyone else public. So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. From Aditya Anil, 2 minutes on a smartphone camera, 120 seconds for something as complex as a smartphone camera? No way, 10 minutes minimum. Well, what I discovered at Pocket Now was there was a very small, passionate community of super passive camera fans. So if I put out this really floated, I started doing the real camera reviews at Pocket Now, and so like one of the first ones I think was the Galaxy S7. And that video like blew up huge. It's something I'd been doing on my own personal channel, but you know, with Pocket Now's audience, it really resonated, that first one. And then the one that exploded, I think it broke 1 million views, was the Huawei P9. So the first dual lens Leica collaboration, that video exploded. Those two were the shining examples. Everything after that, people complained that the videos were too long. Viewer and engagement was way down. So those videos did grossly underperformed versus general reviews and unboxing videos. 24 hours with the Galaxy S8 outperformed my 15-minute Galaxy S8 in-depth camera review. Or at least it did within the time frame of, you know, what we were tracking at the time. I haven't gone back to look at any of these. This is just off the top of my head. So, you know, that sort of just reinforces a community echo chamber of buy an iPhone, buy a Pixel, buy a OnePlus. You know, like you've already come to the conclusion, and a lot of people are watching these videos, especially the people that comment are watching these videos to confirm what they've already bought, not learn about what something else might have to offer. So I kind of came to the, well, first of all, I'm going to put the conclusion right at the top of the video. So at least for the first 4 minutes, you get the rundown on what I liked, what I didn't like, what I cared about, what was a problem. And then if you want to see me show my work, the next 10 to 12 minutes, that's where you can see some of the more granular conversation about what this thing can do. YouTube does not seem to understand that distinction, and basically it's just, oh, well, now you're just making a cash grab. And I love that I get a ton of comments too where it's like, well, this is the worst way to get exposure. And you're like, I've never seen you drop a comment on any of my other videos, but I've got over 1,000 videos that are public, including the one that you're commenting on, which offers up the conclusion of my analysis, which is really what you're paying for. So I'm seriously considering pulling them. Time delay doesn't work. It's not like I can put together a crazy in-depth 20-minute long video and then wait a month and then post it public to YouTube, because then I've already missed the zeitgeist. You know, if it's a phone that's still somewhat current in the discussion, waiting another month is just terrible for any type of SEO or for any type of traction on that kind of conversation. It's not really going to pop up in anyone's feed, and it's past the point where people really want to talk about that product anymore. And then for the people who really care about that, well, it also means like, oh, well, I don't need to contribute to something like a Patreon because I'll just wait a week and then he'll give it to me for free like I always wanted it anyway. So that doesn't work. And I'm sticking to the hard paywall. I'm not going to do a soft paywall. There are amazing people that contribute directly. I just don't want to leave other people out in the cold, and I want to find other opportunities or other conversations that we can engage in so that, you know, this stuff still works. All right. Moving right on. A lot of conversation about the Pixel Camera app. A lot of people saying, oh, well, it's what most people are going to want for most situations. And I guess that's kind of true. From Fat Produce, your Mate 9 real camera review convinced me to buy the phone after a long deliberation. Well, I'm glad that helped. I really liked that video. It did not perform very well. Again, that video, I think, did about a third what my Lumia... Oh, was it the Mate 9? I'm trying to remember. This is so far back talking about Pocket Now metrics. But I think the Mate 10 video... No, the Mate 9 video did okay. The Mate 10 video, that's what it was. Okay, so the Mate 10 reviews that we did on Pocket Now did poorer than my Lumia 1020 Revisited, where I compared it against the Mate 10. So on my personal channel, I think it's something like 900,000 views comparing a Lumia 1020 to a Mate 10 Pro. You know, if you catch just a flavor of that, that's awesome, but that is not how most of these videos perform. From Aditya Anil, I do enjoy the camera conclusions until I can contribute to your Patreon. Do try and upload the conclusions. Hypes me up for the day when I can gain the ability to support your content on Patreon. Well, I appreciate that. From FE1538C saying delay a month and then don't show the shortened version, only the full version. That's never going to happen. I am never going to put them out with the current climate of YouTube until monetization can actually compensate me for the insane amount of time that one of these videos takes to put together. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. Let's see. So from Leah Kornacki, YouTube should get a long, raw example of footage from a phone's camera and say, come to Patreon for commentary and conversation. So Leah wants me to double down even more. So instead of like even offering my conclusion, I should just put up a couple samples and then put up like a banner saying, and if you want to hear me talk about it, come over to the Patreon. Leah, I like that. Maybe I should go even harder. I should like be even more brutal about this stuff. From Sharil Abdul Rahman, if the hard paywall helps you make rent, I'd pay this wall. That's kind of what I'm looking at. Is it's not like Patreon and YouTube are really what makes rent and buys food. But if they don't contribute to that, then I can't take the time. a camera review requires 2 nights of shooting, usually 2 or 3 days of shooting, because I try to shoot in consistent lighting environments at consistent locations. And I've been doing this since the LG G3. So if you catch like one of my old, like a Note 4, if you catch a Note 4 camera review, my Note 4 camera review on my personal channel, you can compare that directly against my Honor View 20 and see similar places under similar lighting conditions in 4K to make, like to see how far we've come for camera. But, that's usually 2 to 3 days of driving, shooting, transferring that footage to a PC. It usually takes me another day to organize all of that content, look at all the photos, analyze all the photos, then another day to shoot the commentary and then edit all of that stuff into a 15 to 20 minute video. Some of these camera reviews get out to 20 minutes long because of all the stuff that you need to take a look at. If I can't compensate some of that time, then I don't do that video. And that's where we're at. From Paul Enriquez, just like one shot and a 10-second video for free. And that is, I think, going to be the next phase for the Patreon. Is they have these different tiers. So, the current tier that we're at is ad-free podcasts. If you're listening to this podcast, if you go to the Patreon, you get the ad-free version. I build ads into the audio version for the public version. What I think the next tier is going to be is, if we can reach a certain level on Patreon, I'm going to hire an editor or an assistant, or maybe both. And that hopefully that will streamline the process of making this stuff and also make better stuff. Because I am good at slamming video blocks together and putting some text on top of it, but I am not an editor. So if we can reach a certain tier where I can bring on a part-time employee or 2, I think that would be a huge benefit for the channel. So, from Blue Malicious, I want more Some Dude Guy spoofs. With the feels really good in the hand and dusty glasses videos makes me chuckle. I just mean I pick up this phone and it's not made out of rusted rebar. So it feels really nice in the hand. So dumb. All right. From Aditya Anil, that comparison was legit. Lumia 1020 versus Huawei Mate 10. Like Nokia should use that as a trailer to sell their next proper 1020 successor. I just wish they'd make one. Let me get this out of the way. And actually, what makes me happy is Steve DesRochers pulled my Some Gadget Bro intro for the Razer Phone 2 to use for that. And I'm keeping it because I think it's hilarious. He knows how to pronounce one of my... so this is from Paul Enriquez Gehring. He knows how to pronounce one of my last names right. Now can he pronounce my other last name? Did I get it? Is it Gehring? I don't know. Let's see. TK Bay, hook it up. I need an editor to help me too. TK, man. Well, first of all, TK, I am a little salty with you. We were going to do a live stream 2 weeks ago, and then we those plans fell apart. We need to do another stream, man. So I'm talking about doing a collaboration with LFA. Let me know what you're working on right now, and we can do another collab soon, because you're one of my favorite voices to do long-term conversations with. So hit me up. Let's get something in the pipeline so that we can produce a video together again. All right, I've prolonged this long enough. The time has finally come. We're there. Gearing, not Gehring. Okay, mostly right. Paul Enriquez Gehring. So close. Nokia 9. It's a phone. Should you buy this phone? Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe this is the phone for you. Maybe this phone would be terrible for you. It's kind of impossible to know, except for people like me who are going to ramble on about how excited I am to have a Nokia device again. This to me is going to be a really telling and important launch for HMD managing this label. Again, I feel it is critical. It's like I posted one of my very, very first photos from this phone over on Instagram, and almost immediately got a comment, well, it's not real Nokia. HMD is built out of the team of people that all sort of left Nokia prior to the Microsoft acquisition. they have a lot of good roots into the old Nokia community. HMD is obviously a conglomerate corporation company that is licensing the Nokia name to put on products. So that is a little sticky, but it's not like when Foxconn just licensed the Nokia label and slapped it on a tablet. This is a team of people that are trying to reestablish the old Nokia vibe prior to Microsoft destroying the company. And the Nokia 9 PureView is an example of us getting back to an old school, crazy experiment aesthetic for this company. I can appreciate that the specs on paper aren't setting the world on fire. We're talking about the Qualcomm Snapdragon 845. That's the chipset that came out for 2018. They aren't using the 2019 Snapdragon, the 855. I am excited to see that this has an OLED display, which now just turned off. Come on, turn back on. I don't know that I love this this fingerprint scanner. More on that in just a sec. Not only in an OLED, but a proper 1440p OLED, so higher resolution than a lot of the premium phones coming out with 1080p stretched displays. So higher resolution, that's actually kind of a big deal because Nokia, HMD has been bringing back Nokia mostly for mid-ranger devices. Even their top tier Nokia 8 is really more a mid-range competitor, not a premium flagship phone. This moves us a little closer to premium flagship. And I love that this is kind of following in the footsteps of a phone like the G6. Flat front face, no curved glass, no notch, even though some of their cheaper, the new Nokia 4 is going to have a notch. This just has a forehead and chin bezel, a selfie camera and an earpiece. I mean, this is a very traditional, it's also a little like, what is that? The Honor View 10. If you guys remember the Honor View 10, it's similar in aesthetic IMO to that. But what does get silly, crazy, exciting is when you turn the phone around and you see this. I'm going to try and catch it in the light. It's kind of hard to show off on camera. This array, this little hexagon here, an LED flash, a depth sensor, and 5 matched focal length cameras. 3 monochrome, 2 color, just like the rods and cones in the eye, taking us back to the experiments from when we were seeing the same thing on Honor and Huawei devices, where we had a monochrome sensor and an RGB sensor. The Nokia 5 has 3 monochrome sensors and 2 RGB sensors. No image stabilization, lots of post-processing tricks, and I'm not even a full day into it. Like, I haven't even had this phone. I've had this phone for 22 hours. And about 5 hours of that ownership has been taken up by sleep. Damn you, biological organism and entity. There's already a lot that I'm digging about this phone. I really hope that they can live up to being an Android One device. It's a very clean implementation of Android, but being Android One should come with the responsibility of delivering faster and more regular updates, bug fixes, security patches, and full operating systems. They've made the claim that they are going to support, 2 major operating system updates and 3 years of bug fixes and support. I think that's what they said during their press conference. They have not always lived up to that on previous phones, but some of those earlier phones, like the original Nokia 8, that was not an Android One device. So it wasn't a part of this branding, certification, whatever it is that we're saying for a label. Now, I am super early in any kind of analysis. Right now, one of my biggest concerns is the headphone jack. They have a little dongle. It does not have a built-in headphone jack. There's a little dongle that you have to use. I do like that they gave us a dongle and then a regular pair of headphones. So those headphones have a 3.5 millimeter jack on them, and then you plug them into the dongle to connect them to your phone. And if you want to disconnect them from your phone, you can plug them directly into a laptop or desktop. I like that better than having a USB dongle and a USB pair of headphones that may or may not work with other devices. From Abraham Arminis, I'm waiting for Juan to return back to some Nova guy. I don't love some of the feel. So the app drawer swipe is so tight. So I mean, like, I don't have this problem with the Razer Phone 2. When I want to swipe up for apps, it always pulses through the multitasking view, right? So as you pull the pill button, the Razer Phone 2, it's just a much cleaner swipe up into your app drawer, which doesn't pop the multitasking. This is such a nitpicky thing to complain about. This is not going to be a major part of my review. I just don't love that feel. And that little pop there goes away when I use Nova. So I might go back to Nova just to recreate the exact same layout that I have in stock Android. It's so silly because I'm just a creature of habit. I'm sorry. Let's get back to these cameras real quick. The big advantage here, what is exciting about the this 5-camera array? It's not even the 5 cameras. It's the proper application of depth tracking information. And this is why I'm so excited about the Nokia 9. I don't think this is a good phone to position as a mainstream smartphone competitor. It really does feel, and Nokia has kind of hinted around this, that this is sort of a limited edition platform for them to test experiences, to get feedback, and then that these features will make their way into more mainstream products. I think it's going to be this is going to be a great phone for me, but also kind of like how I love LG hardware, I'm going to have some reservations just making a broad recommendation for what these devices can do. If you line up like me and you like these types of hardware and boundary pushing experimental features, then I think you're really going to enjoy what this thing can do. This is, so from Blue Malicious, wait, Juan, so it doesn't feel really good in the hand? Well, so I put my SIM card in it, and then I kind of had to take the SIM card back out because it's so slick and glassy and wet bar of soapy. I need to put a case on it before I can really use it as my daily driver. So I should have a case tomorrow, a little kickstand case. So I'm hoping I can get back to using it. But, the feel in the hand is pretty good. Sorry, back to the cameras. This depth tracking is legit. The quality and feel of photos that come off of the PureView. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can pull up some of these real quick. So I posted on Patreon. If I go into screen share, I can show you real quick what it is that I'm talking about, but it's going to look terrible on this feed. So let me see if I can find the actual photos that I had on this. So this is what I posted on Patreon this morning. Nokia 9 depth mapping, no joke. So here's an example of a photo from the Pixel camera, APK. Full disclosure, this isn't from a Pixel. It's from my Razer Phone 2. But performance is very similar in terms of light acquisition and post-processing. And you can see it does an amazing job. The Pixel APK does an amazing job of cutting me out and cutting around my hair and cutting around my jacket. But the blur that it applies to the back of the photo is too consistent. The wall behind me is at a different distance from the kitchen, which is farther behind me. This is just one main blur effect being washed across the entire photo. That is a dead giveaway for an artificially blurred background. That's not how a lens really interacts with light and capturing your subject. Focus falls off based on distance. So the objects closer to your subject will be more in focus, and the objects farther away will be less in focus. So let me go back into screen share. Here's again, just so you can kind of catch the eye. This is from the Pixel camera APK, shot from a Razer Phone 2. Very similar hardware to a Pixel, and like I said, it's worked surprisingly well. Under very similar conditions, this is the photo that came from the Nokia 5. I am very impressed by this. The wall behind me is softened, but you can still see the texture of the drywall, and you can still see this push pin. Like, that gets blurred out of the main of the Pixel camera. But there is a different level of blur processing behind me on the wall versus the kitchen, which is more blurred. That depth mapping is properly tracking where I am in relation to objects behind me and is creating layers where different distances have a different application of blur. This is a significant improvement to these bokeh portrait mode styles of processing. This is a big deal. The cutout is better. It's even better cutting out around my hair. I am more naturally blending into the environment of software blur behind me. And I also want to point out Google Camera with the Razer Phone 2, which uses a very similar sensor with optical image stabilization. The Nokia image without image stabilization in fairly dim indoor lighting conditions, sharper, more detailed, more textured, more information. Same capture. I'm having to shoot this blind. So this is from the rear camera. I don't have anything to reference. I'm just lining my face up with the mirror finish in the back of the phone, and I snap that photo. It's really hard to hold still one-handing a phone out at arm's length and knowing that you're lining up the shot. This is a challenging shot. You just have to practice with it a little bit. No image stabilization with depth mapping, and the Nokia 9 is delivering a better image than what the Google Camera APK can do. And this is also what's kind of interesting. This isn't from a special bokeh mode. There is one little option on the Nokia 9. You tap it, and if you're in pro mode, if you're in regular photo mode, or if you're in bokeh mode, the depth sensor will track information for every photo you take. You can re-blur and refocus the photo after the fact with every photo you take. You don't have to be in a special mode to do it. So I am initially very impressed with the software tricks, the post-processing, the photo IQ. So far, all of that has lived up and exceeded my expectations for what Nokia claimed this phone could do. The concerns. This is a pretty slow camera app. It captures very quickly. The photo is taken very quickly, and you can recycle just like you do with most other Snapdragon 845 phones. So it's not like the Lumia 1020 where you take a photo and then the phone is locked as it processes the photo before the shot recycles and you can take another shot. This captures super, super quickly. But then every single photo you take with depth mapping on is getting processed in the background. And that can take a while. If you burst a bunch of photos, it can take minutes before you're through that chain of processing all of those images. And there was a day one update. I got a word from like a Nokia chief officer saying, "Oh, there's going to be an update, and you're going to see these differences and these improvements, and don't finish your review until you update your phone software." That was true. There was a day one update. I don't know if it had any significant impact on camera performance, but the camera app navigation itself is also pretty slow. So when you move from photos to video, for example, that can be almost a 3 count. So I'm in my photo composition window and I push video, 2, 3, go. Now I can shoot video. So there are some very important performance concerns that need to be addressed. But the main claims of what Nokia is trying to accomplish with this phone, I feel, have been achieved. Now it's, can we polish up some of the UI and the UI and UX user experience so that we can get to those features just a little bit more efficiently, just a little bit more seamlessly. So this is to me a very interesting commentary. The Snapdragon 845 is not a deal breaker for me at this price point, at the $599 sales price, because that's another important thing to reiterate. I bought this phone yesterday at $599. At $599, this phone makes a lot of sense in my brain right now. This is a sale price, though. So a week later, we're going to see the price jump up $100. And then we're into territory where the recommendation on this gets a little bit more difficult. But this, to me, does completely speak to this as a limited edition experience from Nokia to help inform future devices. And for nerds like me who absolutely adore the Nokia label and are excited to see them experimenting with stuff again. But at $599, this phone competes tremendously well, even in a fairly raw state with early software, against a View 20 around that €600 price point and against a OnePlus 6T, where we're again starting at $550. You know, this is beating the Nokia 9 by $50. And dollars to donuts, that price comparison, that makes a lot of sense to me. Again, how these phones would compete, how they do battle. This to me is a really exciting fight. If you were buying a phone today or tomorrow, this week, from the launch of the Nokia 9, I think there is a good argument to be made for great, snappy, high performance, lean software. So my early benchmarking, these phones go head to head fairly well. I think the OnePlus 6T slightly outperforms the Nokia 9 for things like image stabilization and video rendering. But, you know, we're talking Geekbench scores that are within margin of error differences between the two. So a $50 price difference should not be scoffed at. You know, we're talking 10% of what these phones cost. But if you care about still photography, I'd probably lean towards the Nokia. If you're looking at the better overall ecosystem of support, I'd say, oh, maybe a OnePlus, you know, maybe especially a OnePlus on T-Mobile. That to me is a fun fight, you know, like I think that's a fun, fair fight between two gadgets really duking it out at half the price of an iPhone. Well, iPhone XS Max. That's pretty cool. So, this to me is, I'm already looking at this, the Nokia 9, as like the most fun review period for me starting in 2019. I'm already having a blast with this phone, and I'm already having a blast with some of the criticisms with this too. Like, oh, this is going to be fun to nitpick on. This is going to be fun to praise. You know, it's not just like, oh, everything is great with this phone. There are going to be some really fun things that I think Nokia needs to get tagged on, but that's a fun conversation. You know, it's a fun conversation because it's not a conversation at a phone at $1,200 with some glaring nitpicky issues. We're talking about a phone at like the $600 price point where it's a little less precious if it doesn't have this, or it has that, but it doesn't do it well. IP67, wireless charging, kind of mediocre battery size in that V40 territory. I wish we'd bumped up the battery capacity a little bit. Headphone jack, definitely a bummer. But one of the other things I'm going to do after I'm done with this podcast is just shoot a little sample. It has a crazy high resolution front-facing camera that can also do 4K HDR video. So if you care about vlogging, not only does it do 4K HDR video, they're bringing back the old school Lumia approach to microphones where you can tune the direction of the microphone. So I can be pointing the phone at my face, capturing non-stabilized, somewhat shaky 4K HDR video. Well, maybe I've got it in a gimbal. Maybe I'm serious enough about my vlogging. And then I push a little button on the side and I can say, capture all of the audio around me, sort of a surround effect, capture the audio in front of me, or capture me, point the microphones towards me. That is a feature that did not get nearly the respect that it deserved from phones like the Lumia 1520. Again, we have smartphones today that have still not caught up to the cameras and microphones on the Lumia 930. I am silly excited for Nokia coming out with a premium phone at $600 that brings something new to the table. So, let's talk about some of your comments here. I saw a lot of this stuff coming in, so I don't know how much of this was really was really bringing up some of these talking points or what I was talking about. Let's see. From Abraham Artemis talking to Aditya, the 845 is definitely still a flagship chipset. Sadly, it will make people say, but it's not the latest 855. and I just get so frustrated with that. I think most people would still be fine on a Qualcomm 820 if we had better software support. If my experience, live chat scrolling up from Gerard. If my experience with the Nokia 6 2018 is anything to go by, another Android One device, Nokia software support is quick. Pi update came out last October, and monthly security updates are monthly. I would be really excited to be on that cusp because I have a G7 and a V40, which are months behind now for security patches, and I have no idea when I'll be getting the V40 update, which is sort of limping out into specific markets. I love LG hardware. I adore LG audio. I really wish they were a bit better about their whole global community and that kind of software support. A couple of people asking. So Paul was asking about how much it is. So it's on sale now. The Nokia 9 is $599.99. I think the best place to get it would be B&H. I flipped out when I saw that every Best Buy near me had one. They got one phone in to their stock. So I drove out to Burbank and picked up the one phone they had and brought it back. But if you were seriously ordering one, I think B&H is the best place to get it because it comes with a bunch of like freebies and extras. Like I think you also get wireless earbuds if you buy through B&H. And I think one of their bundles also has a battery. Let's see. Oh, from Fat Produce from Andrew. I really liked that HMD responded to you on Twitter with info about today's update to the camera. I was really touched by that. And it wasn't just someone from Nokia or someone from HMD. It's like one of their chief operating officers dropped me a tweet just saying, hey, I'm happy to see you're excited about our phone. Don't review it yet. More software coming. Let's see. Doomer231, I'm excited for the FunTech landscape QWERTY phone thingy, but Nokia phones could very well be close to Pixel camera with hardware. That's definitely true. Let's see. Steve DeRoche, another pet peeve, bokeh. That's mouth in Spanish. The photography effect is bokeh. Aditya Anil. Guys, can we please smash the like button? We're at 113 viewing and only 36 likes. Aw, thanks, Aditya, looking out for me. LFA, that's pretty gosh darn impressive. They are getting a lot right on this phone, and I feel like this phone is going to get slammed in the general tech conversation because a bunch of people are going to try and use it like a Pixel when you shouldn't. You should be using it like a different kind of camera, but there's no room for that kind of nuance in our phone reviews. From Blue Malicious, this is a great question. Do you prefer these depth-mapped images from multiple sensors or one much bigger sensor? My druthers, what I would prefer, especially playing with the View 20. And again, another example, like updates are coming out for the View 20. It has not hit my phone yet, but there is a 3D sensor on the View 20, which doesn't really seem to be used for anything yet that I could tell in my camera analysis. And I'm going to have to revisit this phone when we get some updates and some new apps. But I would prefer the better photo IQ from a larger, higher resolution sensor than being combined with depth tracking information. I personally feel the Nokia 9 is a compromise in using more, less expensive, non-image stabilized sensors to make up additional surface area to capture light. And I think it's similar to what Huawei and Leica went through. It's a design challenge, and it is an engineering challenge and a cost challenge to put in a larger sensor and build that into the price of the phone. And I think one of the solutions is, well, use more smaller sensors and then combine that image output. And I think that's what Nokia is doing here. So I don't think we get a tremendous advantage for depth from using multiple sensors now. I think having a dedicated 3D sensor gives you all the depth info you need, and then however you acquire light is then applied to that. So we'll see. got a few other comments here. Oh, Paco joined, just catching the end of the stream. What's up, Paco Street? How you doing, sir? Paco and Pablo are having a conversation, and they kind of rhyme. Let's see. Goran Petrovic, give us graphene batteries, micro LED screens, usable foldable phones, and then knee-back material. Yeah, so make a future phone today for something that's probably going to be a couple years out. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for graphene batteries and micro LED. It's just going to be a while. From Paul Enriquez Gearing again, LG 40 has been called the most underrated flagship phone of 2018, and I would have to agree with them, and I would also have to agree with them. Abraham Artemis, gear acquisition syndrome in photography world, basically the desire to keep buying new gear. That's gear, you have a bad case of gas, gear acquisition syndrome. I started using that phrase talking about recording equipment years ago. So yeah, I have a bad case of gas, and I have a museum collection of old gadgets that I just can't seem to bear to part with. Lots of other comments here, lots of other discussions. So folks, I'm going to have a ton of stuff coming out on the Nokia 9, and I'm excited to see that they get a lot of things right. Like I can do screen grabs through an HDMI out so that you can actually see stuff that's happening on the phone. It's got proper support for USB3. It looks like it could be a little mini, computer replacement all on its own without a desktop mode, but with really streamlined and lean software. So, yeah, I think it's about time that we wrap this puppy up just at 2 hours. Folks, we did it. How exciting is that? Woo woo! Oh, and someone says that Rory dropped a super chat, and I'm not getting a notification on that. Oh, man, hold on. Let me pull it up. Let me see what Rory had to say in the super chat. Because I want to make sure that that's... Oh, just saying good evening from Limerick. Oh, thanks, Rory. I really appreciate the support, guys. And actually, just that goes in general for everybody. I always appreciate these conversations and the way that we do these SGG QAs, because you guys bring great chat and great comments and great ideas to the table, and it helps me feel like I'm not just yelling out into the ether, that we're really sort of working together on this stuff. And again, I do need to give that other plug, like taking that a step further. The folks over on the Patreon have been instrumental in helping me craft, my review schedule, how I cover certain topics, how I dig into certain ideas and certain videos. And again, for those of you who have the means, who want to look at that kind of community or want to support that kind of production, please check out SomeGadgetGuy.com, the support banner where you can click on that and see all of my affiliates and partnerships and buy yourself something cool. But then also the Patreon is a part of that too. And I really want to thank you folks for jumping in and joining us. I've got to jump back in. I've got to do an audio test. I've got to start shooting some camera samples. I've got to wrap up that Razer Phone 2 eulogy camera review, which is going to be on the Patreon. So a lot of stuff is going to be happening over the next couple weeks. And I mean, even today, I'm just going to be putting out a silly review on the humongous Zero Lemon OnePlus 6 battery case. Like if you don't want to buy an Energizer, you could get this for your OnePlus. Crazy stuff. So folks, thank you so much for watching, for sharing, for subscribing. Huge thank you, support, thank you, thumbs up for those of you who are going to the subreddit, our glowing rectangles, and helping out a bunch of other similar content creators and smaller content creators. As an initiative, that's going to be one of the most important things for me over this next year is we want to see more diversity. We want to see more conversations. We want to see more points of view. We don't want only a handful of million-plus subscriber channels dictate the course of this conversation. Oh, and Steve with the super chat. You mispronounced my last name, but it's fine. Steve, I thought I was pronouncing your last name correctly. How do you pronounce Desroches? It's not De Roche? Am I putting too much of a French flair on that? I am so sorry. I thought that's how you pronounced your last name, but thank you for the super chat. And again, thank you for that support. Back to the subreddit. So many content creators, if you want to see more cool video, if you want more points of view and more conversations, if you're a gadget enthusiast, those content creators need your help. Passive views are not enough to get them over the edge. Just watching and consuming is not enough to really foster a healthy, growing, and vibrant tech community. Action is required. Subscribing, that's great. So you can passively watch more. Liking a video, that thumbs up, also nice, because that helps with algorithmic tracking and stuff. But getting out there and commenting, getting out there and sharing on Reddit, sharing on social media, those are the actions that will push a content creator over the edge and give them the support and the audience and the visibility that they will need to continue producing the content that you enjoy. I am hosting a subreddit, so I have a stake in this too. But and Rory with another super chat, a parting gift, €10. You guys, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Again, bottom of my heart. And let's throw some of this energy right now, this little love fest that we have going on right now. Find a YouTuber you like. Find a YouTuber that hasn't made their monetization threshold yet, and give them a hand. Give them a share. Give them a comment. Give them a thumbs up. Give them some encouragement. Don't just go in and nitpick something that they said wrong in a video, or something that you disagree with. Foster some kind of community around them, and they will be encouraged to make more stuff for you. And that's the symbiotic relationship that we need to have. And Steve, it's pronounced more like DeRush, Steve DeRush, like DeRush. I'm gonna take this offline, Steve. I'm going to figure out your last name if it kills me. Oh, and dude, James W, $5 in the super chat. Man, good luck with the Nokia 9 review. Can't wait to see it. I can't wait to make it for you. And that's the perfect note to leave out on, so that I can go and make that review to honor the super chat that you just dropped, James. Okay, folks, I'm going to have so much stuff coming out on the channel. I could puke thinking about it all. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm finally into products that I'm having fun with again. So I think that the tone of these videos will lighten up a little bit, and it won't be me just being angry at other YouTubers all the time. Thank you so much for being on this ride, for contributing. Time, money, energy, sharing, whatever you contribute. Thank you so much. Paco Street with another £2 for the algorithm. That's hilarious. Thank you so much. I'm really trying to wrap this podcast up, and you guys are going to make me cry. And don't forget about the collab with TK Bay. Steve is saying we need to do this, so we're going to do this. Nitpicker with an OK sign and a thumbs up. You guys know where you can catch me every Monday morning on the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show. I'm here 9 a.m. Pacific time. You can catch the wrap up, the audio versions after on your favorite podcast catchers, and be on the lookout for a ton of cool techie videos that I think are going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to wrap this up now. Thank you so much. You can catch me on the socials at SomeGadgetGuy on the Twitters, the Instagrams, the Facebooks, a little bit more often on the Twitches, and I will catch you next week on the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show. Thank you so much for watching. Do awesome this week. Have awesome experiences with your technology this week. Ricardo Morales with another super chat. It's not much, but it comes from my heart. And Jabari Grace for the algorithm too. You guys, I love you all. Be well, be awesome, and I'll catch you next week on another show. Take care.